Greetings and welcome to Austin, Texas Gardening. Today we're going to be doing another backyard garden tour. It is early August 2022 and we're going to be discussing all of the things that I'm growing here in my backyard garden bed. So this is probably the first day of relief that we've had in months. Today it's maybe 82 degrees and the heat wave is not ending, but today we're getting a bit of a break. Today there is some rain scheduled. If you're new and joining the channel, I live in Manor, Texas. It's a suburb city right outside of Austin, Texas. And I'm about 4,000 square feet to work with in my backyard. We've been really getting punished during the summer drought, and I've been trying to keep up with watering. Hopefully we have a thunderstorm rolling through later. You can really see the parts of my yard that I water and the parts that I don't. So if I back up here to give a little bit better perspective, we got yellow all over there. And then here's my raised garden bed. And the reason the grass is so green over here is because I water a lot. Water about every other day, and so I don't know how many gallons of water I've used this season. My water bill was about 200 bucks last month, but I've got the soaker hose running right now, and the grass next to my raised bed is actually like really green and lush. And so I've got this soaker hose which I use for drip irrigation. We've got all sorts of things growing here, and most of my colleagues from Central Texas, and when I say colleagues, what I mean is people that have YouTube channels that talk about gardening, gardening in Central Texas. We're all in Zone 8B. Right now it is brutal and the heat is really scorching a ton of stuff. These cucumbers obviously didn't make it. And there's a lot of stuff that's well suited for this gardening climate, like peppers and some of the pineapples and avocados that I'm doing some zone pushing with. Today I'm going to be trying to make this a short video. I don't feel like this has to be a 20-minute video today because there's just less to talk about. The summer heat wave has been really nasty and has been punishing a lot of my plants, but there's still a lot of really cool stuff growing. I am going to be talking about ornamentals today, some watermelons and eggplant that I have growing. I also have a cucumber. There's still one hanging on there in the vine, probably last one of the season. Recently I made some pickles and they turned out really well. And I am very excited and I have high hopes for this fall that I will be able to do some more cucumbers, tomatoes, and other types of stuff in my vegetable bed. So typically with these garden tours, what I do is talk about what's here in this bed. I'll talk about some of the ornamentals that I have here in containers. I also have some fruit trees in containers like that olive tree over there. And then I have a backyard orchard with a whole bunch of peach trees. They are not dead right now. They are getting punished pretty bad by the heat, but we're gonna pretty much follow that. I think we can knock this out in 10 minutes because most of my stuff has died. But to get us started, so one thing I've done recently, I've been taking a ton of cuttings from my Purslane here. And I'll talk about that more when I'm talking about plants and containers, but I've taken some cuttings from these 3 plants here and placed them all throughout my garden bed. I thought that this fall, the Purslane would probably look really, really great. And if you don't know what Purslane is, it's a type of flowering succulent. So it's grown really well for me, and I'm expecting these plants to continue producing to accent some of the fruits and vegetables we have in this raised bed. For example, here is my eggplant. I grew this eggplant from a seed planted back in January, and it is doing great. I'll put my hand out here for scale. You can see how good it's doing. And it's got its flower on there. I'm not sure if this one is pollinated or not. It's grown a couple of flowers and dropped all of them, which I've attributed to the heat. You can kind of see a younger flower over on this side here. But we're going to keep watching the eggplant. I think it's going to do really well this fall. I also have some basil over here that's just kind of out of season, and we're just going to hang tight on that. We're going to keep watering, fingers crossed. These will turn out well, but one of my main goals is just if I can keep this cucumber plant alive through the rest of the season. We're so close. This year I'm expecting ongoing drought and you know, the heat wave to continue probably well to the end of September, but once we cross into that October threshold, usually there's another really good couple of months until harvest. And you can see from all the watering I've been doing, my tomato plants are trying to, they've even put out some new flowers there, which is really surprising. They're putting out some new fresh green growth. So I'm glad to see the mammoth tomato bushes aren't dead. We're gonna hold on tight. Of course, the rosemary doesn't care about the weather. If you're new to Texas and you're wondering, what should I plant in front of my house to get started with suburban gardening? Look no further than rosemary. It does amazingly. And so since I've been watering so much lately, I've also noticed, I think some of my plants are just rotting away and dying. Well, I don't want to say they're dying. There's a lot of mushroom growth around these strawberries I have here, but I can still see little wisps of green kind of kicking in there. I likewise planted a watermelon seed just for fun, and it's got all these mushrooms on it today because I think I've really been overwatering. But for the first time, I'm actually seeing germinating watermelons. I don't know if these are going to make it to the fall, but I've got little watermelon seedlings here, and the flowers have been coming out all spring on my watermelon plants, but they just haven't been germinating because it's been really, really hot. Like when I say germinating, they're being pollinated. Like I can tell the bulbs are growing, but then they just fall off when they get to be about the size of a quarter. And so these are really small, but if I walk around this way, you can see a bunch of weeds back here, and also some of these that are getting some size to them. This little one here is crossing that threshold where I think it's going to be actually growing into a watermelon. So I just planted the watermelons for fun. I wasn't sure if they were going to actually pan out, but fingers crossed, we'll see how they do. Lastly, I have a whole bunch of peppers here, and the peppers love the heat. I just added these 6 plants I found at HEB for $1.50 over in Mueller. If you live in Austin, I recommend you go check them out. They look like they're just immature cuttings, like there's no flowers on them yet, but for $1.50, I mean, you can't complain. And peppers, of course, do great in the heat. So if your whole garden's dead and you want to throw in some peppers, they will also do well in the fall. I've heard that the heat helps bring out the capsaicin in these. So I've done a bunch of different harvest videos. If you go look back at my June and July heatwave harvest videos, I've picked a ton of these peppers and I've left some on so long that they're kind of wrinkling up into like chilies, like drying out on the vine. But I'm not worried about that. For right now, we already had a really good pepper season. So this raised bed has served me so well this year. I built this raised bed back in November of 2021, and it's been really cool just to see all the different things that I was able to grow in it in spring and summer. At this point, we've grown strawberries, tomatoes, cucumbers, and obviously all the things I showed off today, eggplant, watermelon. And I shouldn't count my eggs before they hatch because the eggplant and watermelon are still just seedlings. But it's been really cool to do that. Moving on, I am doing some zone pushing in containers. So I have all sorts of plants in containers. These are my pineapple plants. I've made several videos about these pineapple plants, and they're doing awesome. I've had a couple of people recommend that I get some feed for these because the yellow leaves here are usually a sign of malnutrition, and I've yet to do that. I have a ton going on right now with our baby girl. We have a 3-month-old, and so I film these gardening videos, and watering is easy, but maintenance is hard, and so I do want to get around to that. But some of these plants are looking good. Like this pineapple here is, I'd say, fairly green. So hoping those pull through. Similar could be said for this avocado plant. This is so tall now. Like, I'm gonna back up here for reference and try to, well, I can't get that close to it, but like, I'm 5'6", and our avocado plant is clearing, you know, good 5'10". It's looking, it's not looking nice. It's very dry, and I'm gonna attribute that to the heat, but you can see the base is starting to get some bark on it, and it's still putting out new growth. So it's very exciting. And what else do I have in containers? All these plants in containers belong to my roommate. They are dying out, but I've got some really cool stuff going on here. So this is what I was mentioning earlier when I was talking about propagating purslane. In March or April, I bought this little basket of purslane from Home Depot. It might have been like $25. And it's done so well. I've been cutting it back, and I noticed back in maybe May, purslane was growing in this olive container. So I've got a little olive tree here, and I was seeing purslane growing in the base of the container, and it just propagated without me doing a cutting. So I figured, man, this must be really easy to propagate. And I've placed cuttings in some of these containers here, and like this container has a ton of new growth in it, and the flowers were all blooming like 2 hours ago. Before I came out here to film. So we kind of missed that, but there'll be a lot of really cool new opportunities to see that. For example, I had a bunch of marigolds, and petunias in this container, which have all dried out in the heat. But all these cuttings in here are Purslane cuttings that are 3 weeks old, and each one of these little green bushels were just little sticks when I originally planted them. And this is just 2. So they've really grown a lot, and I'm anticipating over the next couple of weeks, and especially in September, these Purslanes are gonna make really cool ornamentals. Of course, I've seen hummingbirds out here. They seem to love to come to the colorful flowers, and these will make great accents for my olive trees. Once again, I have 8 peach trees. I was gonna say a backyard orchard of peach trees, but it's not a lot to show off right now. Like, these trees are just bare, just brutally defeated from this this ongoing drought. It's ironic, I built this French drain some months back to deal with flooding I was experiencing, and now we're experiencing all this drought. I think that there's so many different things that you have to accommodate for gardening in Texas. If you're new to the region, it's just brutal. There's really high highs and really low lows, and yeah, it gets really extreme. And so despite that, a lot of the peach trees that are on this side of my yard have been doing pretty well. I have 3, I'm trying to think what variety of peach trees these are. I don't even remember. 3 Royal Zest trees and a Rio Grande over here. And so all of this green growth is really cool. This is gonna be the branches that the fruit grows on next season. And so while the west side of my yard isn't doing too great, the east side has done a lot better, just probably because they're downstream of all the watering that I've been doing in my raised bed. This tree's a little yellow, a little on the lighter side, but still a ton of green wood. And it's been exciting. You'll have to stay tuned to see how these turn out. So we're well over 10 minutes. I just want to close out by saying some of my previous garden tours have been a little bit longer, but I thought this one could be shorter. I'm very excited for the fall. I think there's going to be all sorts of cool new projects to get into, and at that time we'll do 20-minute garden tours, but stay tuned. I am going to be making a video about propagating Purslane probably in about the next 3 weeks. I can't speak as to an upload schedule. I'll just upload when I can, at least once a month. I could say that. So yeah, thanks again for watching Austin, Texas Gardening. I really appreciate the support that I've gotten from the community. If you have any feedback for me, please leave it in the comments. I want to get to know my community better as well. So if you have any prayer requests, feel free to DM me. I love connecting with people that live in town. Once again, thank you for watching and have a great day.